All right. Well, I tell you, I always enjoy coming and presenting here. And the last time I was here was before the pandemic, and it was a really lonely time in between. I'm really pleased to see so much interest in listening to me talk a little bit about my journey and a little bit about my company. I have another really amazing business partner who's Bruce Matichuk. And so Bruce comes out to the community at different places. And of course, he talks a lot more specifically about artificial intelligence and machine learning. I am more specifically the CEO, of course, but an architect, I would say, in trying to create, I think, a really amazing company in Edmonton with a number of people, and people such as yourselves. You come, people on our staff, just incredible, and that's why we hired 3 people in that initial outtake. Is because it was just so amazing to me how many bright, young, capable professionals exist here. And I remember writing at the time, gosh, and I think I sent a note out to many people because I had over 100 responses, and I had to kind of figure out, well, which one, and it's not it could be anybody, really, based on the quality of the people that come. And so that's part of my job. So I'm now what I call a senior entrepreneur. And 10 years ago, I was completely green. Although I had a really amazing career for 25 years at TELUS and then TELUS Health Solutions. So anyways, I'll stop there. So this is not a deep technical presentation at all. What this presentation is really getting at is my experience, my journey, and that includes all the amazing people that I get to work with, both within my company, in this community, and beyond. And so I'll start with that. It's every company's got its own journey. Ours is the same, and so that's what I'll be talking about today. And I think my objective here is just twofold. One is certainly to raise awareness of the kind of work that we do, and then secondly, to provide you some insights as much as I can around how do we find people at any given point in time to address our business needs. And so me being at this kind of event and talking to you is all part and parcel with that. And then finally, what we see in really great communities, and I've been a dabbler in accelerators and incubator programs, largely in North America. I lived in San Diego for a little while, and there's all sorts of amazing places we can find ourselves. And as I know, a good portion of my company is international, comes from as international students. And of course, we know there's a significant international contingency here. Bottom line is, the world doesn't really care where we're from. They care what we're getting done. And so thank you for choosing Edmonton. Thank you for being in Edmonton and learning and developing your career. So I'll start there. It'll be interesting to see if I get through all my slides, but I'll do my best. So here's a bunch of stuff. It's a bunch of words. But if I had to summarize things, there's three areas that I've involved myself over time. And the stuff here is like my past, right? So my education and my experience. And, even with a 25-year career that I had at TELUS, which I truly enjoyed, met so many amazing people, did a lot of really amazing things with people. It just becomes a part of parcel to helping us as we move through life to create value and to work and how we work with others in creating that value. So you're kind of likely, most of you are in earlier parts of your career, and these are incredibly grounding points. So what you learn and the knowledge base that you have becomes very current, but fundamentally it's like, how are you expanding and building on that? And so innovation and how we innovate with people and new technologies is fundamental to that career path. Of course, other things I love to do. is be a part of the community. If you want to be successful, I think, as an individual, I'm sure you all know this, how you might be looking at contributing and adding and helping is something that's really notable. And then finally, what am I doing today? We all have to be sustainable. We all have to kind of find those pathways forward. So these are things I do. And one of the fun things I've got right now is my daughter, Sarah, created a company. She'd worked with me for about 4 years, part-time and sometimes full-time. And she's now created a company and has attracted over $200,000 of investment from Alberta. And I love that. And I would love to work with any of you too to help make these kind of things happen. So again, a bunch of things. I'm talking about HealthGauge as a digital health technology company. And just summarizing, if you want to innovate, you really have to be looking at and trying to understand what are some really important problems that you can work at. And so I won't go through everything here. I think you kind of get the point. For us as a digital health company, and I've been involved now for over 2 decades in this space. We could see the world changing significantly. We could see these problems in accessing health services and understanding things. We had for many, many decades now a very centralized system, very high skill sets, but not necessarily able to address all the demand that's coming down the path. And like, take a look at this note. This is coming from I think an American Medical Association article. Can you imagine having a loss or gap of 100,000 doctors by 2030? And if you look at what's happening in the health system, the same thing is going on in Canada. Whether we talk about private or public payer systems is really mostly irrelevant. At the end of the day, it gets down to how are we really serving our society and how that's delivered. Technology has and always will be a part of those solutions. And so there's a whole bunch of things that we're understanding and how we can take wearable technologies, machine learning and artificial intelligence-based technologies and start augmenting and supporting. So I don't foresee that we're really going to be getting into like displacing the health professionals, but I do believe that that technologies, these new technologies are going to make a big difference. So that's what we're working at. And this has been a part of my ambition for many years. So where did we start? Now, the reason I want to show some of these pictures is you start somewhere. We started playing around with photoplethysmography and electrocardiogram-based sensors, which you can get for like $10, and you can put them in electronic boards. Many of you might actually even be doing some of this. And we started experimenting and around the concepts of non-invasive blood pressure. But if you can collect those raw signals as data sources, what can you do? Well, you can do an awful lot of things. And so many years ago, we started really working at these concepts. And so this is actually some electronics we designed and developed here as we were looking at wearable tech. And then here's some miniaturized solutions. We did not commercialize this, but we certainly did do testing and development of this as a wearable tech solution. So fast forward to today, trying to innovate and create a hardware-based digital health company requires a large amount of capital. And so you can prototype, and prototyping is really helpful, but you got to keep up with the times. And so as things have moved on, we actually started experimenting and developing our software, largely software-based solutions, by acquiring Shenzhen-based wearable technologies. As long as the sensors are high quality and you're getting the data that you need to do processing, you obviously can progress on that. Now, we actually created patents around some of our techniques and our solutions collectively, and we're continuing to expand on that. So the short of it is, the wrist wearables are kind of like table stakes in today's day and age around a collection of personal biometric and personal sensors information. So it's activity and sleep monitoring. Now there's skin temperature, solutions, and of course, ECG and PPG. And for us, capturing raw data signals and being able to process those was a really, really important thing to do. So anyways, this is all kind of fundamental to our solution. We've created mobile applications, an online application, and of course, we have a machine learning-based team that does very specialized work in non-invasive blood pressure, which is becoming more widely understood. And so pleased to say that we have a unique IP in the area. And then going into that next stage, you really want to consider like how do we make information available in secured ways so we can have interactions with people. And so we've built an online application in addition to the mobile applications. And of course, today there's a large number of digital health platforms. So that's not fundamentally the hard thing to do as much as it is in trying to take all of that key data assets and start to use your frankly, your sophisticated computing systems and AI solutions and do research and be able to provide insights that wasn't possible before. And so going beyond just activity-based tracking information, this was a fundamental goal for us. So just a short note, so talking a bit about the team. So I talked a bit about Bruce Matichuk. Bruce gets out and, as I said, talks to the community as well. Bruce is the leader of our technology team, both on applications development as well as what we call our AI or machine learning development team. And then Arshem is project manager and helps us coordinate things. And we have a number of other people, Jamil, Raman, Owan, Diego, and Tejas, who are all machine learning experts, and they're constantly, daily, working on the problems of refining the data that we have. So one of the, so there's a whole bunch of processes, things that you know better than I do, around data sources, data collection, data cleaning, processing, the pre-processing, the refining, and a whole bunch of other data analytics things that goes along with it. So that's what they do, and then we have some applications folks and some business resources and market resources. A couple of projects I'll highlight early in our career as examples. So when you think about, like, if you could start a company, you can do any number of things. In addition to working with organizations like us, we're always looking to innovate around these topics of how we're going to help the world address important problems. So this organization ICDDR in Bangladesh came to us over and above other organizations like Omron or other wearable tech companies, based on what we do and how we do things. And so the problem was, how do we help women in communities where there's limited data access address the problem of preeclampsia, which is a condition which can have a high mortality rate for early pregnancies. And so monitoring blood pressure and how we use these signals, we put a solution in place in areas where there was limited data access. And of course, there's health professionals and nurses traveling around to collect information. And the point here is really to help people and help understand these conditions and how they might be developing, so that they can get involved in a more significant healthcare process. And so that was an early project for us, and a good example, I think, of the kind of problems we like to work on. Second case study, an organization based in California. We essentially licensed our IP, which is a significant machine learning based solution, plus our resources in helping on a path for MedWatch Technologies to address non-invasive continuous glucose monitoring solution using similar techniques. So these are examples of things that we work on as projects, and there's others coming down the path. A bit of notes on our patents work. So we continue on that path, and we're on our second continuation patent extension. So now some examples, a little bit of notes on things that we've been working on over the years. So some things that you know, just case examples of solutions that we have and that we're developing. Most importantly, of course, I was talking about our machine learning technology in non-invasive blood pressure. And so I won't push the button here, but what it shows you is I can activate through a mobile application this device to collect, you know, for 30 to 60 seconds simultaneously, virtually simultaneously, photoplethysmography, which is digital pulse, and ECG, and we take those signals, and you only really need about 5 to 10 quality pulse. Society is not necessarily understanding these techniques and capturing an ECG on the wrist, and you know, we know there's a few companies that will use card-based solutions, and so we know how to do all of those things. So we're really looking to socialize these ideas, again, not as a replacement for diagnostic tools, but as an addition, as an augmentation in helping people in their ongoing monitoring and management of, in this case, blood pressure. And our NCGM-based solution works basically similarly. So really seeing this proliferation of research and you know, clinical analysis of wearable technologies, implanted technologies, new sensors technologies, and these patch-based devices. And so this is all very current, and I know that the University of Alberta, with a number of faculties, are certainly interested in working on these things too. So what does it all come down to? Well, so when we think about the application of wearable technologies, society expects companies like ours to hit a high standard. And so there's a whole bunch of regulations that are important, and regulatory bodies, of course, are continuing to learn and create policies around how to have these new technologies being introduced into society. When we started our company, we always held the view that while we're using wearable technologies, we want to hit the high standard of the that's expected of society. Not necessarily, again, to be a diagnostic, but certainly be a tool that that is helping people in their choices in life. So, anyways, in order to hit that standard, our data set pairs, which is, you know, we're using blood pressure cuff to our PPG machine learning techniques. You need to have, you know, the hardest thing to hit is really to have 65% of your data within a 5 mmHg standard. And so this graph here is just basically showing our efforts, and we've actually hit the standard for the data sets that we've collected on everything except the 65% for systolic. And so that this square box here is really the 95% line, and then you need to get a certain amount of data within that plus or minus 5. So that's systolic, diastolic, and then a bit of a summary here. We just have one more line here that we have to hit, and we're applying a whole bunch of very specialized techniques in order to address that need and interest. This case example is just a simple picture of our partner solution with MedWatch Technology, and we actually have a unique hardware design which was created here in Alberta. It's a patch-based solution with multiple sensors that is being applied to create non-invasive continuous glucose monitoring solution, again using PPG and in particular signals and other kinds of sensors. Really briefly, this example here is an early stage what we call health coach, in this case a weight coach solution, and we worked with a business partner to use their menu, their outline, and how to help people lose weight. And so we applied ChatGPT based solution in order to refine how to create menus, and then to extend that to create some recipes from that fit a very specific formula of a diet and helping people. And that would include, providing for both coaching services, which can be live or virtual, as well as these kind of tools. And so some of our early stage work on these new technologies. And of course, we're seeing these new talking avatars, and so we've been doing experimenting with that. And I won't elaborate on this, but you can understand how you can start to tie these pieces together. And if you're able to establish a solid quality set of data assets, and as well as getting insight or input from your end users, of course, there's no end of amazing innovation that you can get into, and how to create virtualized and to connect over even to real life persons in coaching and support services. So I'm just gonna gloss over this and next, and I want to talk about team selection. Because my objectives today were largely just to show some examples and discussion around my life and journey and entrepreneurship, and then I think try to help you understand how do we think when we're looking for people and resources, and so just kind of step into it. Some recent hires, and many people are with this for, sometimes it's just within a year to 3 years or more. So over the last period of time, I've helped people address immigration in Canada, because there's so many internationals that are doing this kind of work. But also more importantly, how to get into some early stage careers in adding value. So these are examples of people. They're pretty much everybody on this list is from Alberta. I think we had one person actually joined from Ontario and moved to Alberta. But you can see the dynamic and dimension of the kind of people that we look for. Over the years, I would say probably 60–70% of our resources that we've brought in are what I would say junior level entry, which isn't to say that those folks don't have a ton of experience. I mean, I've been incredibly impressed with the experience that we find in rooms like this. So we look for, of course, all these kinds of skill sets, and then we integrate them into our team. And we do have people in India working on some applications work, not a large number. More of that work is going to be done here. On the application side, all of the AI ML capabilities are definitely coming from here. And on the business side, we got a bit of a blend in Canada, and then we've got some connections in both the United States and Europe. So I won't push the button here, but there's a link here about Elon Musk and talking about, and I like the general disposition and what Elon says about what we look for in hiring. And here's what he says. We actually don't really care, as a fundamental point, whether you have a university degree. Not as in to say that having a university degree is not a meaningful or important thing to have, because it certainly defines a capability of being able to finish something, to get some knowledge. But most of the things that we might want to know and do, you can do without attending a university. So what we do look for, importantly, is an ability to innovate, an ability to try to innovate. When we think about these kinds of roles and jobs, and so to innovate, means you need to be thinking about how do we solve oftentimes hard problems, and oftentimes we try things and it may not work out, but we learn things. And I can say pretty much everybody on our team has that. And so when we talk to folks and really engage on things, now that's generally what we're looking for. I'm certain that everybody in the room here knows what I'm talking about, and has those kind of capabilities. But just to know, because once we get to this place where we're these kind of people, then it gets down to just getting to know you and trying to understand how we can fit you in on our team. So we got two analogies, and this is a bit of an entrepreneurial perspective. One analogy is the rock band, and if you've ever kind of been, and tell me how I'm doing on time. Actually, how am I doing?
Oh, it's 12:30. You're good.
I'm doing okay. All right, so I can just keep rambling along here. And yeah, so even in my TELUS life, astonishingly, we would have these getaway events, and we'd have the executive, certain members on the executive, and they would practice in the year being a band. And so we'd end up with these sales events. And you'd be surprised what the TELUS executive can stand up as a cover band. I mean, my goodness. But that's work, right? And so I'm not expecting everyone here to be musicians, by the way. It's an analogy. But what the analogy is about how we look at doing things and these kinds of companies is really largely that. What do you need to be, to be in a rock band? Do you want to be a superstar? Do you want to be the person that stands out in front and can lay out the tune? Are you the person that, knows how to write a song and can help the team pick it up? How do you collaborate to make that happen? How do you find your space in a band? These are hard questions, right? But that's really the job. And so we're constantly looking for these people that we can bring in, and we certainly have a responsibility as business leaders to think about who do we need in the band, right? Have we lost our lead guitarist? I mean, these are things that happen. Do we need to lose our lead guitarist? So stuff to know. And making songs, of course, requires learning how to create good music. And so that can take a bit of time. So these are things that are part and parcel of the whole interview process. And the second analogy is going to be around, the hockey, the hockey team play. So again, finding your positions. When you're talking and looking at early stage companies, and I remember I showed you that really funky electronic stuff at the beginning. Well, just imagine you're putting your team on the ice, and they're probably not as good as maybe the team that you're going up against. Don't be daunted by that. But realize that the objective is, get on the ice and let's get better at it. So we look for people again how to work together on hitting objectives. And this is really the final point. One of the things that we saw was the implications of the pandemic and how it really accelerated a whole bunch of unusual dynamics. And they've been at play for, frankly, like over a decade, as far as how does work happen? Where does it happen? And so if we draw the analogy around those, those things about building teams, one of the really incredible challenges I think we all faced was, how do we maintain a passionate, focused organization of people working together to address objectives? And in my shoes, what do I need? I need to be able to make a company that can compete. And when we say compete, I need people. In order to progress to those bigger objectives. So the ideas of being able to work anywhere and to hit deliverables and share information, hey, I don't think we've ever seen a better human reality than today on how to do work. But I think as we got into these ideas around flexibility and working together, I think we actually opened a whole bunch of questions, which I don't think we've completely resolved around that point of competing and hitting objectives and deliverables. But I'll put that aside. It's a bigger philosophical conversation. But when we do hire and the things that we do, for sure, the drive on deliverables versus the Taylorism ideas of piecemeal transactional manufacturing of anything is the norm today, where we have to drive hard on really significant deliverables, and for sure we need that. We look for that, and if you and I and our companies can't do that, we will be roadkill along the path of global competition in the fields of our study. Now, I don't, you know, so on the positive side, we are not roadkill. We exist. Not only do we exist, but we are innovating, and we're looking for innovators. We're building our company, and part of my fun, I think, as I was expressing a bit earlier, is we're not just building a company, but we're building companies. And if we can't get the capital required at times, you know, to address a good idea within our existing company, we certainly do encourage people, as I say with my daughter, to make a way. And we're here to help make that happen too. And as I think you were sharing earlier, I helped Sarah acquire a resource through Technology Alberta's program as well. So I'm pretty practiced here on finding amazing people. And if I can't bring them into my organization, I'm going to look around for organizations where I can make something happen. And so we've been doing some of that. So looking to do more of that, and not just with, you know, companies, but with these other amazing organizations like the Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital, SD Innovations, the connections we have in the community with the computing science department, the engineering department, the faculties of medicine. We care. That's why we're here. And so that's what I'm going to be doing for as long as I can. So I'm going to wrap it there. And if anyone wants to ask me any questions, I'm open to chat.
Can you tell us a bit about what you do in the Glenrose Foundation and Glenrose's role in the innovation system?
Yeah, I love that question. So don't go too deep. I've actually been connected to the Glenrose since the 1990s.
Which is a hospital in Edmonton.
It is, yeah. So it's a hospital in Edmonton. It's yeah, I believe it's like, it was certainly the largest integrated rehabilitation health facility in Western Canada, if not Canada. Very closely affiliated and tied to university and research activities. But of course, you know, does health services delivery in rehabilitation. And so when I'm a trustee there, which I'm really pleased to be. And when we think about the health system, people that find themselves at the Glenrose, something major has happened in their life. Life transforming event. You know, maybe you're in a car accident or a ski accident, or maybe you have some really challenging, you know, long-term disabilities to address. And so that's what they do. And so technology and technology innovation across the gambit. That's one of the things why I've really loved my association with rehabilitation medicine in particular, is because of the dimension of innovative technologies that goes into it in helping people, you know, live lives which can, you know, be challenged. So, you know, for the Glenrose is has an agenda on innovating and innovating beyond the hospital. And so the idea that the hospital beyond the facility is of course a significant thing, and helping people after these significant health events go home and manage and live. How do we, with the Glenrose, better serve and support those problems? And so that's a big push coming up. In fact, you know, so we'll be doing a retreat next week and talking about those agenda items. Yeah. Yeah.
So as we talk about some exciting topics, how do you decide which of the projects to work on?
Well, that's a good question. Well, yeah, the question is, how do we decide, you know, so many different things we might work on as projects? Like, how do we make decisions on which projects to address? Well, firstly, you always follow the money. Yeah. So, and sometimes we make investments, you know, because, you know, and there's a few projects, you know, I didn't talk about here, where we make some investments at our level to create those opportunities. And we do that with researchers, you know, but how do we choose? Well, it has to do with, I think, alignment on on this vision forward of personal health, physiological information, that's collectible outside the primary or acute care health systems, right? Because anything that happens in the acute and primary systems is pretty well served. I mean, they know where to get data and the rest of it. But there's all this really significant opportunity for helping people before they end up in the health system. And I won't elaborate in the story, but I do have a story where I say, hey, I became a diabetic last year. Okay. Now I can tell you that the whole entry point of me figuring out I was a diabetic, there's a whole horror story there, which I won't elaborate on. But the good news is I finally found myself on the right track and I got supported. So we really look for projects that are about helping people arrive with their healthcare providers using modern technologies and AI ML solutions to get in the track faster, whether they can address their health with limited health service supports, or maybe they need more extensive health service supports, fast tracking that knowledge and understanding for us to take responsibility for our health, both before and then after things happen, is fundamental to the decisions that we make on projects. All right.
Any other questions? I know, Randy, you're.
Yeah, you okay? Yeah, so Randy,
Yeah.
thank you very much for your presentation. Like this.
Thanks.
So you mentioned that you had some help from Technology Alberta and surely other helps along the way. So can you tell us, because it's not easy to create a medical,
Right.
kind of stuff.
Sure.
It's pretty tough to
It
work
is.
with medical data. So who along the way in Alberta you find help, which is government grant or accelerator startups, anything, resources which help you along the way to do that here in Alberta?
Gosh, really good question. In fact, my current existence actually is different than it was 3 years ago, right? Because our investors actually are well beyond Alberta, so we don't even have 50% investors come from Alberta right now, which puts me in a whole different kind of place. But we've had support by Alberta Innovates, the National Research Council, Bio Alberta as a connector, Health Cities with Reg Joseph, absolutely the University of Alberta, ST Innovations, and we've made investments. When I say investments, like we pay for stuff with the university and others, but incredible resources that I can't house, so I tap into those things. So that's why I'm a big fan and supporter of like anything I can do to help those organizations exist, like I'm there. So all of those bodies, and I think core to the topic to me is we have amazing assets. Everyone will tell you that. But we don't talk enough about the challenges on access to capital. Well, those of us in the crowd maybe do, but the access to capital and frankly the market. Over the years you have to get realistic for what you're doing. Bottom line is anything that you're going to create, you have to have a market, make a market orientation that's going to create a sustainability path. So kind of company I'm into, and most of the companies in the biotech space here, you have to be thinking minimally North America. But in order to be successful, you have to be thinking, I must have my support base here. So make friends, find money. People are here to help, right? Everybody's here to help. And so they will help you, but you got to do your homework, and it can take time. So yeah, we know everybody. I'm not happy with all the policies I see shaking out all over the place. And so my age, right? So they're saying I'm getting into my senior stage. Part of my job is to talk about it, right? And respectfully say, hey, this isn't working. Like, let's change it. So we do all of those things. Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit about your daughter's company.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. So Sarah, my daughter Sarah, so this is also typical if you walk around the community, and this is a good thing. There's a whole bunch of families that innovate one way or another. And so my daughter had been working with me since she graduated, well, both my daughters and sometimes my son. But they learned how to be entrepreneurs. And so she's created a company, My Fertility Labs. And so she's got a really amazing focus on this area for a variety of reasons. And then we built a team, and I helped her build the team. And some through your organization, frankly. And so she secured $200,000 non-dilutive with CDL and Innovate Calgary. And I can tell you, I've pitched at CDL, and I think I got close, but I didn't get anything. But she did, and I think part of the reason is because she was able to get into working with a startup, and you learn stuff, and then you know, and then put people on your team, and then ask for advice. So she gets some benefit from knowing me. I didn't have somebody like me, so I've made so many mistakes that I had to figure out. So that's part of my job, is to help her not make those mistakes. So.
Wondering, with like the continuous data, do you see this being utilized in like primary care? And if you want to go to some of your doctors visit, see this being more widely used, and if so, like how that would change?
Yeah, I'll be a little philosophical about stuff here, right? Because you know, partly innovating is about watching what's going on in the world. And so there's a dynamic at play in primary care, in public healthcare systems, as well as private healthcare systems. And so just watching what's going on, I mean, and then people, like, what are you doing? Like, you're buying an Apple Watch and it's being marketed to you, and then all these things. You saw the AliveCore advertisement, like, hey, you know, your ECG can tell you about your AFib. They don't really talk about how useful that is, but they certainly make a good business out of it. And so people are looking for information, but what they're really looking for are better health outcomes. And so you look at, well, where are these gaps? So I can tell you that, you know, my read, you know, as an innovator, you have to be thinking 3 to 5 years out. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Well, I do think that people are going to continue to use wearable tech and mobile applications, that the expectations of these applications and devices is not going down. They expect companies like mine to hit higher standards. And then the other thing is that the whole area of like we want to protect that. So people will make decisions. So we'll talk about policies aside from this. People will make decisions on their healthcare service delivery path based on the outcomes that they're getting. And so, you know, and I could elaborate on that, you know, through talking about, hey, last year I became a diabetic, and you know up front what are the problems. So people do and will be using technologies such as what we're creating to do that.
Oh, Buddy, Darren. Yeah, question. Not right on yet.
Oh, sure. All right. Yeah, how do we get the question? Robin, if you want to unmute.
Hey, Randy, thanks a lot for the presentation here. I have a question around the pattern. You mentioned about your successful applied pattern, right? I want to know
Sure.
like how long take, is that hardware pattern or software or both? That's question one. And how long,
Yeah.
like, did you get extra funding from Alberta Innovates or kind of to support you to go through this complex process?
Yeah. And in this case, you know, what we're talking about is you know, it's a wearable technology patent in using applied AI ML techniques. And our patents, in our case, did include elements of hardware, but more significantly important to us was relating to multi-sensors solution and applied AI or machine learning. And you know, so there's a longer discussion there, like where we started, how do we get that, and then how we're looking to build on that. So I'll just make it short. It took us gosh, like 4 years plus, and we pursued USPTO first and foremost, and it was a massive struggle. and we secured it in 2021 after starting probably 2016. And you know, you need to be able to find the people that understand the topics in the area, and then that have really close linkages and understanding with the actual people inside those patent agencies. So we found some amazing patent agent based out of Minnesota. We also work with Gallings in Calgary on our international kind of patent activity and CIPO work. And we're on our second continuation with USPTO, and we're looking to build a new patent as we go forward. But it's
National, over in the US.
we started in the US.
So
Yeah,
then it's good,
yeah, that's what we did. And as a startup, you only have so much money, right? So the USPTO, you know, no knock on CIPO, but you know, you want to serve, you want to live, you need to have that USPTO stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, some data in medical is are very sensitive. And we work on the data together with various various solutions in healthcare. Let's see the privacy of paramount importance to the company. And so in the context of privacy, how do you establish trust with users of your platforms and solutions, and how do you communicate privacy to those users?
Okay. So just to rephrase that, how do we establish trust and privacy with our solution and get that trust with people in using the solution? Well, there's a lot of, you know, pretty standard expectation practices. So as a company, you have to establish policy. You have to reinforce that by creating processes that prove you're meeting the standard and expectation of a lot of, you know, regulations or legislation such as PIPEDA and HIPAA, and there's other privacy acts to be aware of, and you know, so you always know you're going to have a terms of service outline, you're going to have a privacy statement outline, you're going to reinforce that a number of ways. You know, but that's easy. It's easy to write terms of service and privacy, you know, once you throw it on the internet site, you're done, right? But that's really not at the heart of it. You know, what's at the heart of it is, okay, you said a bunch of stuff, and so we have an obligation. And I won't tell you that there isn't, you know, it isn't challenging to make sure you're doing that. So you want to build those processes into your company. So you have these standard operating procedures that you have to establish and you have to maintain, and you have to get your team to sign, you know, to sign things, and you follow all these various things. So it's a cost item. It's a time item. You do the work, you know, and so that's all part and parcel to the business.
I have a question, but I'm not in.
Yeah.
Do you think that this technology has, you know, there's disparities in how men and women are diagnosed at doctors' offices? Do you think frequent use and wear and the collection of data could be used to help women specifically get easier access to diagnosis and treatment?
Yeah, good question. So the question around you know, women's issues and health interests versus men's interests and how the health issues are how they're served. And you know, having two daughters and you know, and you know, helps me understand some of these different perspectives, you know. So and I'll just use, you know, Sarah's company as an example. Whoops. All right, well, hold me just a second. You know, women, that's why it's incredibly important, I think, to see more women entrepreneurs, and it's really amazing. And you may not know this, but Alberta women entrepreneurs, we have a great crop of women entrepreneurs here that have tremendous reputations. And so I think part of the answer is probably like the better answer is that, well, we need people that actually care about these problems and can get into the heart of the problems in really meaningful ways, because those are the people that are going to create the value. You know, so, you know, we shouldn't be surprised to find that, you know, women entrepreneurs are actually answering those questions better than I am. but having two daughters that are focusing it, I'm really enjoying supporting them in that work. So yeah, yay to women entrepreneurs. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much for that.